Aquarian Anarchy live with Donnie the Don, round 2. Here we go. Let's get it. Welcome, everyone, and welcome back again to you, Donnie. Oh, we got the quote. Okay, shit, I didn't know you were going to have it up there. All right, so this one's from Mercy Otis Warren. We will stand against tyranny today. I'm messing it all up. Or our children will bow tomorrow. Apologies. We had the wrong quote in the system, and Marcus just threw it up at the last second, so we actually got it in. But anyway, here we are. Welcome back again, Donnie. And
thanks for having me
everyone.
Back.
Yes. Welcome to everyone who is joining us here to hear this conversation. We're excited about it. How have you been since we last visited? That was probably a couple of months ago. Been doing all right?
I've been doing fine. I actually recently went to Kentucky on a road trip. We drove there. Got to see the beautiful countryside, and all the city, and all the human-made, highways and all that great trip. I went to speak with farmers.
Oh, nice.
Particularly ones that focus mainly on chickens. Okay. And it was very nice. I got to speak at their national convention they had. And also you got to see how divided they are as well. So there's division in like almost every group.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, next time you come out this direction, I live in Indiana. So next time hit me up and we'll see if we can have you over for dinner or something.
Okay. I'm actually supposed to be in Kentucky in October. So like after that, I have other states that want me to come to their state convention. So I'll be in Kentucky again, but it's like East Kentucky. So maybe you can stop by Indiana on the way.
Cool.
Hey, quick question. What were the divisions of the farmers, if you don't mind going into that real quick?
So some of them like the good old way of doing things, which is nothing. And some are actually activists.
Cool. What were the activists like?
They actually knew their rights. They actually knew the Bill of Rights, the amendments. They knew the Constitution for the most part. They're older, younger, all kinds of age groups of people that were there. The ones who are activists, but one thing too is a big thing is a lot of people are pushing for animal rights over human rights. So there's a lot of them as well, because there's been a lot of lies and they've lost property and land for certain things. And people who are pushing this stuff are typically like SBAC and things of that nature. So they'll take they'll claim something's going on, take the animals, and a lot of times they actually kill the animals. So you're saying it's because of this, but then you're turning around, you're killing the animals yourself. Right. And then and then they lock up people and they lose their rights and liberties. So it's just interesting when the other side just kind of like, we'll got to comply. We're not going to do anything different. We're just going to follow whatever the government says and won't advocate for anything. The other side's like, no, enough's enough. They've gone too far and we have to stand up for our rights and our liberties. And then they also have lobbyists that don't do anything, just get money.
Yeah, for sure. That's a lot of that. Probably most anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I found that farmers are pretty cool. Sorry, Kat.
They are. And I was the only Black lady there. There was a Black gentleman there, but he was Puerto Rican. And they were very kind and open and welcome. No one was disrespectful to me. They are actually after my speech, they're like, oh my gosh, you did amazing. You should run for something. Or, they're like, a lot of people aren't going to understand you or hear you're saying too, because they don't know the rights. They don't know history or any of that. And I was under the assumption the people I went with, was invited by, that everyone knew their rights. But in a sense, I was also teaching. And so it's insane that the government's got away with so much stuff because of the ignorance of people in our country. And these are small farmers. These aren't big corporate farmers. These are small farmers.
Right. Yeah, well, that's one of the biggest tricks, right? Is that the way that the educational system, which is largely streamlined by government policy through the Department of Education and even like at the state level, that they're very slick at making it to where you don't learn how to push back against them. You only learn about all the things that you can't do or you'll get in trouble,
Right.
That's how
Right.
civics is taught. Civics is taught was like, don't do this, otherwise you get in trouble. And here's all the
Yeah.
different branches and how they work together to make it to where they can tell you what you can and can't do. But none of the hey, this is like there's a lot of this that's unjust authority.
It's all authority. And like some of the amendments we covered was the 14th, basically protecting you from unconstitutional state laws. 10th Amendment, where it protects us from the federal laws, state, federal and state, the distinction in what the powers they have and don't have. And then the 9th Amendment, where just because it wasn't listed as all right already doesn't mean it's not all right. And then a lot of people are just like, how do you know this? Why do you go around doing this? Like, why did you want to come here and have this discussion with people? I'm like, it doesn't matter what group of people you are. If your liberties are being infringed on, I'm here to, to educate people on that, to help you understand that, and motivate you all to stand up for those liberties and freedoms. And regardless if it's something I don't agree with personally, if it's you have a right to do it, you have a liberty to do it, then I'm going to be there standing up with you for that, because it has to, I have to keep that same energy. You can't just pick which ones you want to help or defend or not. You have to be able to do it for everybody.
Right. That's one of the things I was impressed by the Big Boys, particularly Magnus, is that their kind of mandate was to stand with people that are exercising their freedom of speech and bring the freedom to defend yourself for the Second Amendment to that, so that they didn't get attacked by the state or the police or other activists fighting against them, and just was about protecting them regardless of what their political beliefs were. I thought that was really good.
So do we want to go ahead and launch this thing?
Sure.
I've been told, Nicco has said that I have to give a disclaimer before we play this, so that everybody knows, so everyone knows their rights. You have the right to turn away from the screen right now if you are, I don't know, if you have epilepsy or like a history of seizures or anything like that. If you look at images on the screen that may make you do that. So here we go. We're about to enter
directly
into
in the center.
Thunderdome, aka the Aquarian Anarchy Indoctrination Chamber. All right, so are you ready?
Is that new?
Yeah, well, the
Yes
spiral is not new, but the sound is, and I messed up. I had my muted, so it didn't come out right when I first hit the button. But
the sounds are new, man. We're learning.
Yeah, the sounds are new. So, Marcus, I'll let you kind of kick this off, since you are the one who turned Doni on to some of the stuff that I guess she's been reading here recently, and I want to kind of figure out where she is with that, and what she's found, discovered in that she didn't already, or what has maybe. I think a lot of times what I found when I read a lot of this stuff is, I'm like, you know what, I knew that, but I didn't know it like I know it now. Like I didn't, there was something inside me that felt it, or there was something that I had heard long ago that it just kind of got lost in the sauce. And so it brings a lot of that stuff into focus. So,
and there's a little bit of noise. I don't know where it's coming
I don't
through.
know I hear that too.
Sounds like
I muted my mic, so I don't know. I don't hear it, but my mic was muted. So.
Oh, your mic was muted? Okay, well then it wasn't. Is that you, Nicco?
I don't have
it's
anything.
gone now, so I don't know what it was.
Yeah, well, it's fine. Okay. I'm just gonna blame it on Nicco anyway.
Right. I don't know. But the last time that Doni was here, we were talking. She calls herself the Constitutionalist, and we had, at that time, we were talking about the founding fathers and a bunch of stuff. And one of the things that I don't remember if it was me or it probably was me, that I said, you should check out the Anti-Federalists, and particularly people like, Patrick Henry and those sorts of people. And so she's done that. She's looked into the Anti-Federalist and found a whole bunch of stuff, just like I knew she would. So tell us what you found.
I changed my name from the Constitutionalist to the Anti-Federalist.
I noticed.
So I want to tell you all of this real quick. When I was in school, they did mention Anti-Federalists, but as if they were wrong. And they were saying, these people were wrong, and we have the Federalists. The reason why we have this amazing country we have today is because of these Federalists. They talk about Hamilton, and they talk about Madison and people of those natures. And I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, okay, I went and read the Articles of Confederation first. It's only 7 pages long. I suggest everyone go get the PDF file online. You can find it, only 7 pages long. And I seen a lot of things in the Article of Confederation that I was thinking, oh, that would solve this problem, that would solve this problem, and this problem, and this problem that we're having in our country. One of the problems I saw, number one, that everyone always talks about, they want term limits. That was already addressed in the Articles of Confederation. And basically, it was even better than just term limits. If they went to, first of all, they only met like once or twice a year or when it was only necessary. And then second of all, if they went up there and did something they weren't supposed to, you're not going back. Right. It's that simple. So there is that piece of it. And then, you know, when people are like, oh, then how can we fight off foreign invasions and foreign, you know, that was one of my questions. Like, how do we take on, like, you know, foreign countries? First of all, foreign countries aren't really messing with us. We were the ones messing with them. And if they want revenge, I can see why. But how they were set up is each state had their militia and they would come together and vote on coming together and when working together. So I'm like, okay, that answers that question. So, and also too, we'll get to Patrick Henry real quick with the guns and militia and federalizing everything. He warned, a lot of these anti-federalists and papers warned us about all these things that were going to happen, that the accountability, there were going to be no real checks and balances, and also the fact that they won't have any muskets in any states if they were to centralize this. And what direction are we going in right now? Exactly. And then one of the compromises for us even having this Constitution, we'll go to Rhode Island last, but one of the big compromises is the Bill of Rights. And now we have the federal government, Congress, creating laws, unconstitutional laws, to scrape away those Bill of Rights. I'm sorry, the contract had been breached. I want to go back to our Federation. So,
let's go.
And then with Rhode Island, so they had to have an anonymous vote. All 13 states had to agree with it. Rhode Island wasn't going to do it. But then they start trying to use the new Constitution to go after them with commerce and attack them. And then Rhode Island was like, okay, you're going to come with this? Fine. We're going to go ahead and sign it. So they had the 13 states sign on it. But if you read, Rhode Island said they had stipulations. One thing I want to point out, when you hear Confederate, people think slaves. They think racism. No, there was nothing about slaves in our Confederation. Go read it. Number two, Rhode Island said, we want y'all to stop importing slaves. That was a part of their stipulation. Was that met? No, it wasn't. So there's a lot of things to unpack, you guys, but people need to read that and realize all their complaints they're having today with the accountability, the lifelong politicians, the UN, the NATO stuff wouldn't exist if we had the Articles of Confederation. All this would be a problem if we had our original Constitution. We've had two, just so people don't know who are listening, we've had two constitutions.
Yeah, and I agree with you entirely. And I've said for a long time that a lot of times with freedom stuff, we take 2 steps forward and take a step back. And that was exactly what happened in this country after the revolution. You know, they saw all of this central power that the British had over not only the American colonies, but over their own people. And they didn't want no part of it. And it was a big rope-a-dope when they did this. Many people compare it to being a coup. And the more I've looked into it, that's absolutely true. And so when people start to look into this, they don't even understand who the people are we're talking about. We aren't talking about like people that no one knows. Everybody has heard of Patrick Henry. Lots of people have heard of George Mason. You know, the first history of the revolution was written by Mercy Otis Warren, who was an Anti-Federalist. Again, all of these things, all of these people are massively impactful at the time. And to one of the things you said too, what the Anti-Federalists were trying to get, they didn't want a Bill of Rights that was 10 long. They wanted like 50 to 100, and they wanted a lot. They wanted everything enshrined. They didn't want a central government.
They knew not to trust the people because they knew that the gray area was going to be exploited. And so you have to put it in black and white because the gray area is always going to be exploited by the people who have the power and want to preserve it.
And can I add something too?
Sure.
The Anti-Federalists were the laborers. They were small farmers. They were the working class citizens. And those that were for it were the ones that were the rich, the bankers, the monarchs, those kind of people. Those were the people that were for the big centralized government. And also, too, the people were threatened. And then the same thing that the Brits were doing, they were doing it over here with this new country. Patrick Henry said, so what do? We fought off this big tyrannical government just to have new rulers? Mm-hmm. So it's just like, so this is the same thing. You guys basically want to get rid of another ruling class so y'all could be the rulers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, and one of the things, I don't know if y'all watched, if you either went to see or watched the movie production of Hamilton, but one of the things that was the most annoying to me, like first of all, I hate Alexander Hamilton to begin with. So like, I was like, this is going to be the stupidest thing I ever watch, but I'm going to watch it because everybody's talking about it. Then they have the one, huh?
Nicco said something.
Oh, I said they paraded him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then what do they have? They have Aaron Burr, who's played by a black guy, and he's like his big line and the whole thing is, and I'm the idiot who shot him at the very beginning of the thing, and I'm like, no, you're my hero. What the fuck are you talking about? Thank God you shot it. You shot Hamilton. Oh man, it's just it's wild the way that they rewrite the history to kind of re-enshrine some of this in mythological lore almost to make it seem like this was some like and we've all fallen victim to it, like that the Constitution itself is some divinely inspired, like no, you go back and look at the stuff before that, and that's the stuff that those people, like you said, it was written by the common people, the laborers, the farmers. That's where the divine inspiration comes from. Everything else was a bank and a money takeover and it turned the United States from what it was, which was this loose confederation of states, into a corporation. That now, when you go and you want to have a business, okay, you have to go incorporate yourself into the government and become part of that corporation.
Right. And another thing with these Federalists, a lot of them, they got heat because like you're spending all this money on fancy clothes, all these things you don't need, doing the same thing the royals were doing. And a lot of them weren't even in the country all the time. Most of the time they're in other countries chilling, hanging out. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, how can y'all even have a say in what's going on here if y'all aren't even here with us right now?
And just to put that in perspective for people, we're not talking about a 3-week trip to Paris or something like that. They would spend years in foreign countries. Years. Like I think Ben Franklin spent like, and John Adams too, they spent a long time, almost like half a decade or more in like Paris or maybe in Madrid.
Jefferson as well.
Yeah, Jefferson too. Thomas Jefferson too. Exactly.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, like another person that went overseas and stayed for a while was Thomas Paine, and he would be considered an anti-federalist, but he went over there and stayed because they arrested his ass because he was trying to drive. He was trying to get people to rebel. He's like, oh hell no, let's screw this French government. Let's get rid of all these people. and so they threw his ass in jail. And to put it into perspective, he got a hold of Washington, who Washington himself admitted that we owed Thomas Paine our independence from Britain because without his pen, without the pamphlet Common Sense, the people wouldn't have rallied behind it. Mm-hmm. But when Thomas Paine was sitting in a French prison and said, "Hey, buddy, Mr. President, can you get me out of here?" He said, "Sorry, buddy, no." Mm-hmm. So, you're right. And one of the things I also would love to point out is that the people who were the Anti-Federalists, Doni's absolutely right. It was the farmers, but it was also the soldiers. These are people that actually fought. These are not, the people like Washington and Hamilton. And don't get me wrong, I'd take Washington in a heartbeat compared to these pieces of shit we got now. Yeah. But they were sitting in their own, little tent with heaters, it was heated for them, not heaters, but they were all good. They weren't out there actually with guns and fighting, but the people that were wound up anti-federalist.
You know how I started my speech in Kentucky?
How's that?
I said, man, you guys, whew, do y'all think the forefathers would agree what's going on today? And a bunch of people were like, no. And I was like,
you're like, wrong.
I was like, well, some of them.
Exactly.
I got
That's
your
funny.
attention, didn't I?
Right. Well, but at the same time, I do need to, because I'm not. I would back then I'd have probably been an anti-federalist. That's the truth. But that being said, I want to back up and do recognize that though they were wrong, and though they did a bunch of stuff wrong, we know now in hindsight what the Constitution brought. Again, these people weren't bad people. You know, most of the people that are deified by Republicans at this point were not bad people. You know, Madison was a good guy. He may have had problems just like the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
But he was trying to get at freedom. So other than Hamilton, I'd take just about any of them.
And even, you know, truthfully, like Hamilton wasn't necessarily like bad on his own. I think he got suckered into like doing the bidding of the central bankers who wanted to run things. And he was like, you know what? These guys might be onto something. This is a good idea. And he started to carry their water for him. Because this is the thing that I always try to get across to people is like, and you know, back to that old Bill Hicks joke about like, you know, the president getting his orders and all that stuff. You know, what we see all the time are the puppets. We never see the puppet masters. We never see the strings. The marionette, you know, masters are back there doing their thing. And so often what we see is just the people who are smart enough to sound like they're in control and in command of this stuff, but who are just, you know, I don't know, compromised or, you know, in the pockets of somebody enough to be led around by their nose, you know.
I agree with you, but I feel like that was still a choice.
Oh, absolutely. And there were some people who made the right choice and died for it, you know.
When you're in those days, and you or not even just those days, or when you have the ability and opportunity for power, you're not really going to pass it up unless like you've been beat with a great conscience. Like there's been nothing but like you got to stay on this kind of like I guess Buddhist path and not stray off, because once you get the carrot dangled in front of you every once in a while, people will bite. And granted, we're on the other side, we're on the pleb side, so it's like we don't see the money and the power. We don't see the opportunities that they're offered. Granted, it's not right to do any of the foul shit they're doing, but it's we don't really get a full grasp on what they're offering. Granted, I'm not agreeing with it whatsoever.
Well, it's funny you say that, Nicco, because I was right before we came on. There was I was telling Marcus, there's one of the doctors who came over here to our 4th of July party for the like Health Freedom Louisiana group. She was part of this webinar with like Naomi Wolf and everything that was just on a little bit ago, and she was talking about how one of the ways that they attacked this the last 2 years most effectively was by hitting the people who are maybe not necessarily wealthy, but the people who are kind of like in the middle, that middle to upper middle class, because they had the most to lose. If you're poor, what are they going to do? Be like, yeah, you're going to be even more poor. Like, you know what I mean? They weren't really threatening them with much. And then the super elites, they never got threatened in the first place. They were either taking placebos, faking like they got shots or whatever else, and going about their business, having their parties and, you know, going to concerts and doing whatever, flying all over in their private jets and everything. But the rest of us, the people who pay all the taxes and the people who put in all the work to make the world go round, that's the people who they were like, all right, so what we're going to do is all that stuff that you've been working your whole life for and that retirement that you have and all that stuff, you're not going to be able to keep it unless you do this. And we're going to make you choose between your family and supporting your family and making sure your kids have enough to eat and, you know, go to college and whatever else, or, you know, your principles on whether or not you want to get these shots. And that's kind of where some of that stuff I think came from with that stuff too, is that people were more easily compromised because it was done with the carrot and less with the stick.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Doni.
I feel like no one's giving me a carrot because I won't chase it. I can feel like I really stand on that because, hell, I lost everything after running for office. I mean, everything. And I've been through a lot, but I'm not going to go back and change what I was going to say or do because of any kind of opportunity or anything. So I feel like that carrot hasn't been dangled in my face because they can see that I won't be someone they can influence in that way. I would like to have $1 million every year as a salary, but I can't do it because the only reason why I got into this in the first place, it wasn't because someone told me to. It's because I had a conviction to do it. Mm-hmm. So, and if I were to change up and start saying something different, people might be like, "Oh, well, she's been bought and paid for. And I would deserve that." So. And here's another thing. I listen to you guys. Like you guys, you all presented something to me. I actually did read into it. I mean, Anti-Federalist papers are over 200 pages, you guys. I wouldn't read them, So I listened to you guys, and I found some really good information that I can present to people who do listen to me. Mm-hmm. And so the only other thing I can say is, you guys know how heavy I want to abolish the political party system completely, but I think that's more so a long-term goal. And I'm sitting here making enemies, but I got to make some allies too. Yeah. So I'm just kind of looking at the Libertarian Party, the Mises Caucus and stuff. I'm thinking, well, they can definitely tear up some things down because, look, they actually stand for liberty. They actually are listening to the people where Republicans themselves, Republican Party, they don't listen. Democrat Party, they're not listening. So I'm just like, well, how about we just give a big F you to both parties and say they're old school and we go support the Libertarian Party. And then I know they steal their elections from them. I don't think they're all like not as popular as they say they are. Mm-hmm. I think that they need to start requesting audits for every single election they have. Start seeing that. Because remember, Tucker Carlson was trying to show that Trump had his votes taken away and give it to Biden. He made the mistake by showing Joe Jurgensen as well. Yes, numbers were small, but they took her votes away as well. Mm-hmm. So the people are being silenced on all levels. And if I don't know if y'all know this or not, the Libertarian Party of Texas is actually suing Texas for their unconstitutional election issues they're having here.
Yeah, we're quite familiar with the Libertarian Party, and for that matter, the Libertarian Party of Texas. At one time, a friend of ours named Ben Farmer we both Chad and I worked for Adam Kokesh, and Ben was our campaign manager, and Ben it was at one time the chair of the Texas Libertarian Party, and is still a mover and shaker
very prominent
within the party.
There, yeah, for sure. He's
we're very aware.
He's taken a few little different turns that I don't necessarily appreciate worldview wise and everything. And he's not a big fan or friend of the Mises caucus and that. But I've I guess kind of gravitated more towards them and away from him. But he's still, he's still got he knows how that whole setup over there works, and he's filled us in on a lot of that. But I wanted to dig in a little bit with you on, you were talking about making enemies, making friends, making some allies and everything. I just, your brand as the Constitutionalist, I just want to how has that, and how has your viewer and listenership kind of received this newfound approach to how the Constitution itself was developed and what came before it and what all that, what you described here today. How has that been received by your audience?
It's been received well, actually, but I had a few issues when I went and had a whole show on it on Call-In. The first one disappeared. I don't know what happened to it. And yeah, I'm pretty upset. That's kind of why I haven't done one on Call-In since then, for now. I've been on Spaces more often. My personal audience, they get it. And then you'll see on Twitter Spaces, we'll have our discussions. You have people that think like myself, who are actually for liberty and freedom. And then you'll have Republicans who like to come in the group and try to tell us that we're wrong and we can't go this route because it's a losing route. But when you go into the Republican spaces, then they're like, yeah, your ideals are cool and all, but they're not realistic. And I'm just like, man, imagine if y'all told the Patriots that back in the day, because we don't even have this country right now. And I'm just like, you guys are actually y'all are actually a problem, and you're loyalists. And so when y'all tell me that I'm taking votes away from Republican Party, so you're not even voting for liberty or freedom, you're voting for a party. So you're actually taking away my liberties and freedom by voting against it. We shouldn't even be voting on liberties and freedoms. That's like absolutely asinine to me. You know, we shouldn't be having a discussion on guns or anything at all. It shouldn't be a talking point at all. It shouldn't be touched. And so when I go in on Ron DeSantis and Trump, my people understand it. They get it because they see it too. But they're just kind of looking for who's the next person. Who is the person that we're going to look for to
like
lead?
who can beat the people on the other side. It's not even like who do we actually want to champion. It's, oh, I'm so scared of another 4 years of Biden and Kamala Harris. What's the best way to make sure that we get rid of them? And it's like, but if your best solution is like Mitt Romney and Lindsey Graham, are you really changing anything? You know what I mean?
No, they've been around. How long have those people been around and they haven't changed anything? Right. And my other issue I have too with the Republicans, how is it that people have been conservative their whole life, been liberty fighters their whole life, but they're not the ones getting the endorsements? Why is it these people who are Democrats their whole life all of a sudden turn into conservative superstars are the ones getting endorsed? Y'all don't see what's going on here? It's a formula. I'm sorry. I can't get jiggy with the whole Carrie Lake thing. I'm like, I see all of it. I can see through the smog. And everyone else is like, they got to be part of the popular group. Like they're 12 years old or something. Got to fit in. So we're going to sit there and repost and say certain things so we know that we get retweeted and we get likes for saying groupthink things. And this is like, I remember as a kid, individualism was very important. Like you don't want to dress like everybody else. You have your own style.
Yeah.
Do your own
to be
thing,
the first one to find that new band or that new group or whatever. You know, you didn't want to be a
trendsetter like Nicco. Because Nicco's a trendsetter. I love your outfit.
I appreciate it. No, this is just a regular Sunday. Or not even a Sunday.
He's on Sunday.
That's how chill I am. I'm still on Sunday. Look, I had an interesting day getting up, and it's still interesting as we go. So, you know, we're just out here.
For sure.
It's so cool you say that, though, because that's I think that's one of the things that is really unfortunate that there are enough people who buy into this idea of like, oh no, you can't do that because if you do that, we might lose. And it's like, what are you going to lose? You already lost everything. Like you're literally saying like, we play for the Washington Generals. We want to play for the Washington Generals forever. We're going to keep getting our ass kicked by the Globetrotters. But if we, and I'm like, but what about the Bulls? Like they got MJ. It's like, no, you don't understand. If we did that, we might lose the General. I'm like, yeah, fuck the Generals. Like they suck. They get their ass kicked all the time. Maybe we need some new blood. Maybe we need something different. Yeah. Well, but the thing you said about when they do go for new blood, they're always looking for this grifter who just switched to get the Libertarian Party did the same thing. They went after Lincoln Chafee and Bill Weld and Bob Barr and all these like former Republicans or former Democrats or Justin Amash. And Justin Amash, like he's probably the closest to like real libertarian as a lot of them have been in a long time. But they're always going for like this name recognition thing, or like the way the Republicans. They have like Lady MAGA, and it's like, or MAGA, whatever, you know, it's like, so, all right, so to fight the T agenda, we're going to have a T like with a MAGA hat on. And that's going to be our, like, see, we're woke too. Like, this is how you think you're going to win. Yeah.
Right.
It's so wild. Like they will adopt the thing that they hate, just so that they can try to win some of the side of the population that they think hates them. Like, sure. Look, don't hate us anymore. We have one of your people. And it's like, what? You sound even worse when you do that.
And Rothbard handled this pretty staunchly as it relates to the Libertarian Party. He said, you know, he said, what you need to do is we need to learn from our enemy. And I think this was either in Kentucky or Texas or Michigan, like in 1988, in a speech. You can find it on YouTube. But what he said was that we cannot water down the message. We have to speak radically and act pragmatically. He said we have to, say taxation is theft and mean it. And But if they say, well, let's reduce taxes by 1%, take it. Take everything that heads in your direction. And that's, as an anarchist, that's where I'm at. I don't believe in voting. I don't believe in any of that crap. I think it's all a waste of time. But I want a strong libertarian party. And the reason I want a strong libertarian party is because I haven't always been an anarchist. This is something that has developed over time. And as I developed, I needed the Libertarian Party to help me to bridge that gap from being a Republican to being an anarchist. So I am all about that. But we have to learn to not adopt, because one of the other things that Rothbard suggested was that we should not adopt anything that goes against our philosophy. And where he got all of this is from the communist. He got it from the Communist Party, and they've been doing it for years, because the goal of the 1960s Communist Party, and Glenn Beck covers this in one of his books, I don't remember which one. He said that, but they have gotten almost all the things that they got, that they aimed for, and one of the things they aimed for was control of both parties, and they're really close to having that. So what you're saying is absolutely true. They cannot, if the Republicans are going to stand any chance at doing anything, they have to stick to real principles. And I don't have faith that they will. I have little faith that the Libertarians will. I have much more faith that a Mises-led Libertarian Party will do better.
So at least the Mises-led, there seems to be like some principles underlying that are guiding.
Correct.
Whereas a lot of the libertarian now there's like a thread of principled stuff in libertarians. The party itself has been more of like, hey, we're not the Republicans and the Democrats, or we're a compromise between the two. Something, look at us, that sort of thing. And it's the same thing that happens a lot of times, I think, with how conservatives tend to allow themselves to be juxtaposed to the left, is like it's all reactionary. So yeah, it's coming through. It's something coming through Donnie's mic, like whenever. So if I mute Donnie while one of us is talking, you don't hear it. But the crazy thing is, when she starts talking, it's fine. So I'm going to just let you talk. Go ahead and give us your. So what in terms of building allies? How has that manifested itself in there?
This is a little newer, but in a sense, like, I did meet you guys. You guys are allies. I wasn't, an anarchist or anything, but I completely understand and I get down with exactly what you guys believe in. I like everything that y'all talk about. It makes sense. But, but it's just like, how many people can we obtain that and get that with? I think if we were start seceding as states from our federal government, we could start having that. And I'm sorry, by the way, for the mic thing. I muted my box, but I'm not for sure why I'm still doing that. But but my whole thing is like looking for different allies. I'm like, okay, at first with me or libertarians, I started seeing libertarians that sounded like Democrats. And I started seeing libertarians that sound like Republicans. But then I actually look at the Libertarian and the Libertarian Party, Mises Caucus, and they're actually talking about liberty and freedoms. They're not trying to sound like both parties. They're not trying to be the Reform Party. The Reform Party is the ones like, oh, let's mush all together. It comes down to the Constitution, our freedoms and liberties. That's what you should be standing on your grounds. Neither party, Democrat, Republican Party, actually stand on those things. The Republican Party somehow got the 1776 cloud, Patriot cloud, constitutional cloud, but that's not even true. They literally named a bill, the Patriot Act, that wasn't even patriotic at all. It was extremely unconstitutional. So
they've been using it against us for the last 2 years, like gangbusters. For sure.
Yes. And then the other big thing too with the Republican Party and the thin blue line things, I used to march at the Back the Blue rallies, and then I woke up and I realized that these police are not necessarily bad human beings as who they are personally, but as a police officer, when you took an oath to office not to uphold the Constitution, and you're going off of whatever your department tells you to do, and you're enforcing unconstitutional laws, going to people's vehicles and things like that without a warrant. And it's like, I'm sorry, that stuff is more than a slippery slope. We've gone down to this spot now to where this is not right. And I'm like, to the point to where I feel like we gotta go to the sheriff departments, because at least you elect your sheriff, They can clean house if there's the whole house was bad. Well, the police department and their chief of police, they're appointed by your corrupt politicians. They're coming from other states. They don't even live in your city.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if I'm gonna make allies, I'm allying up with people, like I said, farmers, people who actually care for liberty. I'm an ally with the Libertarian Party. If I can figure out who to talk to over there, and get with them.
We'll link you up.
Allying with you guys. Any group that stands for liberty, I want to be your friend. And I mean real liberty, not like, oh, I like these few rights here, but I don't like the other ones. No. Those who don't want to be left the hell alone and live their life, that's who I need to ally with. And then hit me up.
Yeah, we got you. I mean, I already got Maj to unblock you, so that was one step in the right direction. I don't even know how that happened. I think hadn't Maj blocked you or something?
Who's Maj?
Maj Toure. You don't know who Maj is?
You don't know who Maj Toure is?
You need to find out who Maj is.
Because you were one of us said something, and then like because you commented on it, you were like, I don't know, he's got me blocked or something like that. And so then, I was like, bro, unblock her. And then so he went and fixed it or whatever. So anyway.
Yeah, can y'all send me his profile?
Yeah, for sure. I got you.
And
yeah, we can link you up with the people. Like we know we had Michael Heiss was actually on here a few months back. He's the founder of the Mises Caucus. So like we can link you up and get you, because I think it's important to kind of stay connected in all of these areas and try to find the allies, because that's what we've been trying to do, is we're trying to bring all these like-minded people together and not have people stop at, oh yeah, but they're a Republican. Like, well, yeah, but if they're a Republican who sees it as like, okay, I recognize like I'm more libertarian than I am Republican, but I got to fight here because for whatever reason, people are still, that R when they go to the ballot box means something to them. So I need to have that R after my name when I go in there. But when I'm on the podium and I'm talking and I'm spitting principles, they're getting libertarian principles. Mm-hmm. They're getting these, founding principles that we get down with. So from that standpoint, like if you can find a way to kind of bring all of those different vectors together and we're trying to build Voltron, like for sure. the Megazord or whatever, I don't know, cartoon combination robot animal thing. That's what we're trying to build.
Can we just be Power Rangers and just call it a day, bro?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, when it all comes together, the sum.
So am I the red Power Ranger?
Yeah, it's a synergistic thing though. Where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's very true.
And I want to point out something else too when it comes back to the founding fathers, and we're repeating history today, where people don't care about something happening to someone else until it happens to them. So, or someone they care about. Y'all have to care beforehand. So initially when the whole revolution was getting started, they didn't care about what was going on in Boston. But eventually, John Hancock has been known as a big founding father. He had to lose everything to get on board with them. So people have to lose. Don't wait until you lose everything to jump on board. You're better off defending it and instead of trying to take it back after the fact. Absolutely. And so that's another big thing I also brought up at that convention I spoke at. And I also brought up George Mason as well, because they actually did win the war. They're tired. They lost friends. People have died. They lost a lot of money. I understand they're tired at that age. They want to just have time with their family, and they don't really want to be involved as much anymore. We're not at that point. We're still losing. We're losing every single day.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if you're 80, 90, 70 years old. You still got to fight to keep going. Like, you got to keep going. And so that's my message to you guys, really, truly, is do not wait until it happens to you or someone cares about it. The FBI raids, these unconstitutional things they've been doing has been going on, but y'all didn't care. Not you guys, because you guys are amazing. You're smart. Other people didn't care until it happened to Donald Trump. This has been going on for a long time. They're doing this to your small farmers on a regular basis. Unfortunately, that has been the pattern of history, is that people, look at what, happened under Hitler. He came, there's that, old trope where, they came after the gays and I wasn't gay. So I didn't say nothing. And then they came after the blacks and I didn't care. And I wasn't black, so I didn't care about that. And so on. And then they came after the Jews and they didn't do nothing, and so on. Well, damn it. That's why we need to unite. That's why,
I don't care what somebody calls themselves. You know, I've called myself everything under the sun. I've been everything from a communist, literally, to an anarchist. So I don't care what somebody calls themselves. If they are coming our direction, keep coming. And I don't care if for instance, Donnie, if you're good, I'm an anti-federalist, that's where I'm stopping. Great. I don't care because you say cool shit.
If we can get back to just like the Anti-Federalist, like I think we will be like, man, we accomplished so much while we were alive. Holy crap. You know what I'm saying? So like the ideal is, you know, ultimate complete freedom where we live in peace and harmony and voluntarily deal with each other. But on the way to that, there are a whole lot of really cool places that we can, you know, we can have a little siesta at least and enjoy ourselves while we take a breather from this maniacal tyranny that we've been living under for so long, and especially like these last 2 years. And I'm here to tell y'all, like, it's getting worse. They are ramping it up. I don't know if you saw the thing that they're already getting ready to. They're going to blame Trump for all the side effects of this stuff.
I saw that.
They're saying that he rushed everything through, and so as they're blaming Trump for all that, that's going to bring the pushback from the other side. It's just going to be
wait. So common sense says orange guy pushes things forward in America, but side effects only happen in America. So therefore, orange man is the reason for all this.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I don't think
never mind the side
people
effects.
Don't think outside of America.
Right.
They don't think outside of America. So they just said he's the one who pushed it on his government. So therefore, it's everywhere and it's his fault.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
And you know, one of the things that happened this week, Nicole Pinkston, who is also an AA alumni, she was talking about that
Aquarian Anarchy, not anyway.
Yeah, for sure, Aquarian Anarchy alumni. But she, well, we are the cure for the statist. The statist
we need to have 12 steps.
Right, I know
a whole 12-step thing. Like
right,
first,
sure.
admit that there's a problem. Government is the problem, and then you just start working our way down. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put it together.
We brainwashed the brainwashed. Come on,
yeah, for sure. But she said, you know, we need to start offering shit for people. Having all of this philosophy is great and all, but we have to have a solution. And I said, that is what is beautiful. And you touched on this earlier, Donnie. That is what is beautiful about localization. I said, what it does is people don't like to have rugs pulled out from under them. And instead of pulling the rug of statism that is nasty, as disease infested as it is, killing folks all the time, what localization does is say, here, sit on the yoga mat for a minute and it's clean. You don't have to worry about getting nothing. And so if we can get the power pulled back to the states, then we stand a chance at actually getting them to get off of the yoga mat and onto the beautiful hardwood of freedom. And so the idea is, yes, we have to understand that I have lots of principles and ideals that not everybody is at. And I have to come to them with compassion and say, I understand you're looking for freedom. This is the way. And, you know, I'm very happy that we helped you, Donnie, because you are a powerful voice and you're not done and you will continue to grow. And as your voice continues to grow, I'm glad that we helped kind of say, hey, you probably ought to go look at this, because then that means that we've had a massive effect once you're whatever it is you're going to be. So what are your next steps?
I'm going to keep going to every place I possibly can to speak to people. You know, social media is a cool tool, and it's just a tool. But talking to people in person. So at that convention that I spoke at, it was at a hotel. I didn't just speak to the farmers. I spoke to all the other guests who were out there drinking beer and having a good time. And what I found out is from the age of 60 down to 24, people have never voted a day in their life. They don't like the Democrat Party. They don't like the Republican Party. They don't like how the system is going or working. But and I asked a guy one day, he had on a T-shirt that said Patriot, and it had like guns as part of the flag and everything. So I asked him, I said, hey, what does patriot mean to you? Not to attack him, because, you know, my brain, I'm wondering if he's one of those people that's like, oh, some gun laws are okay. You know, so I'm just curious.
Right.
And he was just like, nah, man, because all I care about is taking care of my property, my family, and my friends. And that's it. And, you know, and there's no party out there that's going to do that. I don't really get into the politics discussion and things like that. And his wife came over, and I told him, I understand you don't like politics, but you guys, this has to determine if you're a criminal or not. This actually decides how much taxes are going to come out of your pocket, the regulations, the rules on any business you have. And I started explaining those things. I got their phone number. I got multiple people's phone numbers of doing that. And so whenever you're anywhere, they say, don't talk about politics at the bar. Don't talk about church. No, talk about it. They are silencing good people and telling you not to talk. You got to start talking about it, because you will come to find out someone who said they'll never vote a day in their life will probably vote for you if you did decide to run, because they found someone they can believe in and actually stands on liberty and freedom.
Absolutely. Amen. And that, for me, you know, people like to use the Lord of the Rings as a example. Don't put on the ring of power and all of that. To Nicco's point from earlier, don't be Frodo. Do not aim at Frodo. Be Sam. You know why? Because Sam was just there to help his buddy. That's why Sam was there. Sam wasn't on this journey because he had these great ideals or all of that stuff. No, his buddy needed his help, and he wanted to get on that trail and move with him. And, you know, most people miss that at the end of the movie, Frodo chooses the ring. Sam does not. Remember that. Remember, Sam says,
Frodo spent so much time with it that it did start to even corrupt him. Not on the same level that it did Gollum, but it was, you know, it was starting.
I mean, he was starting to look like him. He was starting to look like him.
That's what I was going to say. You kind of started to see that the same transition that
don't turn into Gollum, people. That's what we're asking you.
That's right. Biting people's fingers.
And can I make one more suggestion too?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys, I know you're adults, and I know y'all may think anime is a cartoon. But if you watch those action adventure animes, they always show the government's being corrupt, and they show the heroes, or the government calls bad guys, are actually ones taking them on. That's a major formula in a lot of these action animes. It took me forever to get into One Piece. One Piece calls out a world government.
Oh shit! You just blew Nicco's mind. You just blew Nicco's mind.
Why you taking so long? Why you taking so long? Now you got to take now you got a very, very long trail ahead of you. And
I'm already in the 500s. Okay, I'm doing this. Okay, I've gotten to the world government. I've got into the fishmen and those ones who call them. Yeah, I got into all that. But then my main one y'all really should look at is only one season. That's not long. Is a Kami ga Kill. Because they're the assassins. They're taking on the corrupt government. You look at, this poor girl. They're killing these poor people's families, and they're so nice. And then it turns out they are torturing people in their freaking barn on their land, and they're not good people. So this is exactly real illustrations that are entertaining that are in anime format.
You ever see Akira?
Akira's cold too.
Akira.
What is it?
Movie.
Akira is like from the 80s, and it's set in Tokyo 2020.
And it's people get superpowers and all that fun stuff, and they're sidekicks, and
they get shots, and the shots give them stuff.
You should watch it. It's a good watch.
Yeah, it's a movie, but it was on. I remember somebody brought it to our dorm. And they had it on Laserdisc. Man, they had big ass Laserdisc like this shit and everything. And we watched it in the lobby at my dorm. That was back in like 93 or something like that. So it's been around for a long time, but it's crazy. I went to Hangout Fest with my daughter in 2019, and they actually had one of the bands played Akira during their whole set on the screen behind them. And I was just like, that's wild that they just sat there and like they're just playing the thing while they're playing their music, and you don't hear any of the audio from the movie. You just see the scenery and everything. But it wasn't until then that I noticed. I was like, oh shit, this is set in like Tokyo in 2020, and that's when like the bomb goes off and all that, whatever else, and it's just like, oh shit, like it's like we're almost there. We're almost to 2020, and sure enough, 2020. Holy shit! Like, what the hell happened? So yeah, there's a lot of that stuff where there's some little truth nuggets, in all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Simpsons have nothing on anime. Just my opinion.
That's a good one. That's a quotable right there. That's
for
that's good
sure
stuff right there.
Yeah, and for me, my inner nerd, I'm a sci-fi junkie. My inner nerd goes to on this kind of stuff goes to Firefly, and if you guys haven't seen it, there's only one season because they took that shit off. There's one season and one movie, and you want to watch it the series first if you haven't seen it, but it's same deal. What is really disturbing, and I don't know that this isn't what's going to happen, but I'm not going to give spoilers, but what happens at the end of Serenity, which is the movie that's tied to Firefly, I worry because many of the things that Satan Klaus and his buddies over in Europe are trying to do very much remind me of what happens on the planet where the Reavers come from. And for those that know, you'll know. And for those that don't, you should find out.
Hey, since we're talking about TV shows that exploit the world, Stargate, like I just started watching that, bro. And it's like,
you started Stargate?
I just started.
Did you watch the movie? Did you watch the movie first?
I see. I'm lost in the order. I mean, I can Google it very easily.
The movie was before. It's not going to affect anything.
Okay, so
it kind of gives you like how they started that whole process of. Like,
do I watch the Atlantean one first, or do I watch like the?
No, I think it's just Stargate, SG-1, and then
that's with all
Atlantis,
the Egyptian artifact and all that fun stuff. All right, bet.
So Donnie, this has been great. Again, you are an amazing guest. You are always welcome. And, I really hope that you continue to just develop and learn all of the stuff that you've started. Because one of the things that I said earlier is, are you becoming an anti-federalist, or are you just on the way to being an anarch? And the reality is you already are. You own yourself. You are your own ruler. You are in charge of your own being. You're already there. You're just trying to figure out how to communicate that to the world. And I support everything that you do, and your links are down below. Do you have any closing words you want to leave people with?
I want to say this: give me liberty or give me death. I said on my podcast a few days ago, I said so many people are afraid of dying. And a lot of people claim to be Christians, but if people believe that death is the beginning, then why would you want to live your life on this earth as a slave? I'd rather die free than a slave, and that is how you should live. You're not living. If the government tells you how your property and your land has to look, you're not free. So just because you've complied or you're okay with it doesn't mean you're free. So Give me liberty or give me death.
And if I may, you kind of touched on something that really like sparked a thought on like what kind of the process that I've been going through. Tomorrow is going to be 9 months that I've been doing my little morning meditation on Twitter every morning. And one of the things that I've started to realize, you talk about slavery, is we have to be really, really mindful of that slavery doesn't just come from tyrants and authoritarians and governments or individuals or anything like that, but it's our slavery to our own passions that can get us caught up. And when you are living righteous and you are actually following the will of God, and I know that we all fall, we're going to fall, we're imperfect. But when that's your target, okay, even when you miss the mark, if you're still aiming at that target, you're doing yourself a greater service for all of this other stuff in terms of like being able to see some of the stuff as it comes, because okay, like you were talking about before, having those carrots dangled in front of you, the reason why it doesn't land on you is because you're not a slave to that passion that carrot would fulfill. That carrot would feed that passion that would catch up, because a lot of people, whether it's sex, drugs, money, fame, whatever, all the different things of the 7 deadly sins, they're really good at finding the stuff where they can exploit you. But if you're pointed in the right direction, it's going to be a lot harder, number one, for you to be compromised, but number two, it's going to be a lot harder for you to fear all of this other stuff. Like you talked about, like you claim to be a Christian, but you're afraid of dying for this stuff. You're afraid of like being martyred for like that is like the mark of the greatest Christians that have ever been in Christendom. You know, it's kind of weird that we have somehow along the way lost the plot and come to this assumption that if we believe in God, that God's just supposed to make us comfortable all the time, and we're not supposed to have to deal with any trouble. You know,
it wasn't a deter of God, because it's like it was the deter of, how do you put it? I guess following his acts to a T. I mean, as in people would, and then the separations and all that fun stuff. There's so many dividers amongst it, and there's so many distractions. So I would say I would pump it up and like chalk it up to the distractions, opposed to them, quote unquote, being for God, or not for God, but, you know, falling and straying away from God, because you can still be on the path to God and pray, but the distractions are a lot more prevalent nowadays for people. And you're born in this world of nothing but distractions. If you notice, you go back all the way back to my grandmother, to her grandparents, there was just simple tasks set in front of them. Now, in days when you come out the womb, your parents throw a tablet to you and say, "Here you go, young lad. This will teach you, and that's your God. This is your new God."
Can I add one more thing to what y'all both said too? I need to start saying this more often. But a lot of times we turn to these false idols or human and man for answers, but we should be turning to God for the questions. If you look at all the major battles with small groups of people, or one person takes on the big evil, that was because God had armed them. God was on their side. We're not asking God for help. Us collectively, we come and ask God for solution, ask us for help us. If people say it's impossible for us to take on the big tyrannical government called United States, then we can actually with God. But if people aren't asking him for guidance and asking him to help them and, you know, speak through me or give me the tools I need, Lord, to do this, we're not going to win. So that's one thing right there. We're not going to win without him.
Absolutely. And I mentioned this last week when we were talking about the Hotep thing, but Awaken with JP had a great and if you're not familiar with him, you should check him out. He's hilarious because he does a bunch of satire, and he released a video.
JP Sears. Yeah.
And he released a video that was serious. He still joked around a little, but it was relatively serious, and it was about evil. And you know, one of the things that we've got to start doing is just denying that crap. Just put it aside. We need to stop. We need to start recognizing that they're not going to show up as demons. They're going to show up as angels, and we need to make sure that our principles are correct. But the number one thing he pointed out is, yes, they control the media. Yes, they control the governments. Yes, they control major corporations. That sucks. We have God on our side. God's on our side. I'll take it. You know, and in my own spiritual practice, I've stopped asking for anything. It's hard. It is very difficult because, you know, we are trained by everyone, not really by religions, but by people practicing religion, that what you need to do, right. But what you need to do is you need to go to God and ask for what you want.
Keep asking.
I've stopped asking for anything. Like at dinner, I don't say, "God, please help this or help that." I say, "Thank you for my wife. Thank you for my family. Thank you for this food. Thank you for everything that you have given me." Because at the end of the day, if I die today, I have been a blessed human being. I have had the opportunity to talk to Doni. I have had the opportunity to do this with these two fantastic people. And that's the kind of activities that I want to be doing. And I get to.
Yeah, so if you ask for anything, you know, I found that the best stuff to ask for is virtue. Like, you know, Lord, give me patience, give me wisdom, give me strength, give me the things that I need to follow your will and to see this through, because that's sometimes, it's, and when it does come to that other stuff, even as Christ did in the Garden of Gethsemane, said, Lord, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me, but not my will, but your will be done. And that's where it lands. Is it finally ends up there. That
I ask him for direction almost every day. I ask him for direction, and I've been led to certain paths and met certain people. A lot of people within 2 years. That me asking for direction, I've been led to the right people, the right things to read and pay attention to.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's really good.
And that's because you are not following the most dangerous religion in the world, and that's statism. Mm-hmm. You're following an actual religion that leads you to God.
Yeah. Well, statism is the manifestation of all things the devil, like it's all the worst of humanity. What is that? What is he?
Your shirt. I like it. Your shirt says it.
Oh, this?
Status.
Yeah, this is a Rhonda Mary shirt. So and it actually has like the definition underneath. It says anti-status, and it says an advocate for freedom, skeptic of government, and anti-bootlicker.
Oh, I like that. I need one.
So I'll get you the link for that too. And I did reach out to Michael as soon as I hear back from him about who you need to connect with for Mises Caucus Texas folks. And I want to talk to you as well about. I'm in Louisiana, so like there's some stuff that Louisiana and Texas can get together on to kind of protect our little. Plus, I mean, hell, when y'all secede, you might end up annexing us anyway.
And I'll move.
It might be Tex law or something like that. We got the Mississippi River over here. I just want to remind everybody, we've got a nice thoroughfare for commerce and trade. But yeah, it's been really good to have you on, and I really appreciate. There's you can tell when someone is in it for the right reasons and is going about it the right way, because all of the things that you talked about are about trying to help people find their way, trying to help people see the light and see the way to freedom, and getting past a lot of this petty squabble nonsense and just saying, like, look, I get it that y'all don't agree on that, but that shit ain't important right now. What's important right now is that we've got to do what we can to work together, because right now and this is what the devil always does, right, is he'll have you fighting each other, and it doesn't matter who wins because he wins. But if you're not fighting each other, then he can't win, and he's got to find another way to try to get you to pit yourself against someone else.
Absolutely. And just one final word. I do think that something we started with Vin Armani or Cyprian is absolutely correct. The good guys win, for sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Every time the good guys win. And Doni, you're one of the good guys. You may be a girl, but you're a good girl. All right. Yes. Well,
I'll take it.
That's right. Thank you for coming. Right on. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us, and stay free.